When people hear the phrase financial freedom, they picture yachts, private jets, and never having to work another day in their life. But let's get real. That's not what financial freedom actually looks like for most Americans today. Financial freedom isn't about being flashy, it's about being in control. It's about waking up in the morning and not having a knot in your stomach because rent is due, the credit card balance is climbing, or the student loans won't stop breathing down your neck. In today's America, financial freedom has less to do with how much you make and more to do with how well you manage. You can earn six figures and still feel broke if you're chained to debt, stuck in lifestyle creep, and constantly living paycheck to paycheck. At the same time, you can earn a modest income and feel free if your money works for you instead of against you. This conversation isn't about chasing an unrealistic dream. It's about defining financial freedom in practical, real-life terms. Because for millions of Americans, it's not about being rich. It's about being stable. It's not about having everything. It's about having choices. And if you understand the real meaning of financial freedom, you can start moving toward it today, no matter where you're starting from. Financial freedom isn't about being rich. It's about having control over your money and your time. Too many people confuse the idea of freedom with the idea of wealth. They look at celebrities, athletes, or social media influencers and assume that's the picture of freedom. But what you don't see behind those curated photos is how many of them are drowning in debt, tied to contracts, or living under constant financial stress. Having a lot of money doesn't always equal freedom, and in fact, sometimes it creates a different kind of prison. The truth is, financial freedom is much simpler, but it's also much more powerful. It's about being able to decide how you spend your time, how you spend your money, and not having outside forces dictate your every move. Think about it like this. If you wake up every day and your first thought is how many bills you have to pay, how much debt is hanging over your head, or whether your paycheck will stretch until the end of the month, that's not freedom. That's survival. Financial freedom is when you flip that equation. Instead of money controlling you, you control money. It's when you have enough saved, invested, or budgeted that you no longer live in constant fear of the next unexpected expense. It doesn't mean you never think about money again. It just means money stops being a daily source of stress and instead becomes a tool you use with confidence. One of the most important parts of financial freedom is time. Time is the real currency, but most people don't realize it until it's too late. If you're working 60 hours a week just to keep up with bills, even if you make good money, you don't have freedom. Your schedule is owned by your financial obligations. On the other hand, if your expenses are manageable, your debts are low, and your savings give you breathing room, suddenly you can choose. You can choose to take a day off without guilt. You can choose to spend more hours with your family. You can choose to pursue something meaningful instead of just chasing a paycheck. That's freedom, and it's priceless. Now, here's the key: financial freedom doesn't happen by accident. It's not a lottery ticket or a sudden windfall. It's built step by step through discipline, planning, and choices that sometimes feel small but add up over time. Saying no to lifestyle creep, living below your means, paying off debt faster than required, setting up automatic savings. Those aren't glamorous things, but they're what build the foundation of freedom. You might look at someone driving a brand new car and think they're ahead, but the person driving a paid, off-used car with no loan might actually be the one closer to freedom, because they own their time. They don't have to work overtime just to make a car payment. Financial freedom is about priorities. It's asking yourself what matters most: flexibility or appearances, stability or constant stress, control or chaos. And when you put it in those terms, the definition of true freedom becomes crystal clear. Debt is the biggest roadblock to freedom, and breaking free from it is where the real journey begins. You can talk all day about investing, saving, or building wealth, but if you're buried under debt, it's like trying to run a marathon with chains around your ankles. Debt doesn't just take your money. It takes your energy, your focus, and your sense of security. Every month, before you even decide what to do with your paycheck, you already owe someone else. Your income isn't truly yours because pieces of it are already spoken for, whether it's credit cards, car loans, or student loans. That constant drain keeps you stuck in a cycle where you're working for the bank, not for yourself. The reason debt feels so heavy is because it limits your choices. Think about it. If you didn't have monthly payments sucking up your income, what could you do differently? Maybe you could take a job you actually enjoy instead of clinging to one you hate just for the paycheck. Maybe you could finally save for that down payment, start your own business, or travel without feeling guilty. Debt steals those options. It forces you to prioritize payments over possibilities. And in that sense, debt is not just a financial problem. It's a lifestyle problem. It dictates how you live, what you can say yes to, and what you have to say no to. Breaking free from debt isn't easy, but it is possible. The first step is to stop normalizing it. In America, debt has become so common that people treat it like a natural part of life. Credit cards, student loans, car financing. It's almost expected that everyone carries some level of debt. But just because it's normal doesn't mean it's right. You don't have to play by that script. You can choose to be different. You can decide that instead of upgrading your lifestyle, every time you get a raise, you'll throw extra money toward your debt. You can cut unnecessary expenses, downsize if you have to, and build momentum by paying off one loan at a time. Each debt you eliminate is like cutting one of those chains off your ankles, and with each cut, you move closer to real freedom. It's not just about the math of interest rates and minimum payments. It's about the mental shift. Debt creates stress that lingers in the background of your life. Even when you're not thinking about it, you know it's there, waiting. You know the due date is coming. Once you start breaking free, you feel that stress start to fade, and the relief is powerful. It's like taking a deep breath after holding it for too long. That's why people who pay off debt describe the experience as life-changing. They're not just talking about money. They're talking about getting their peace of mind back. Debt is a weight that holds people back from building the future they want. Every dollar going to interest is a dollar that could have been invested, saved, or used to create opportunities. That's why financial freedom starts here. You can't move forward while dragging the past behind you. Freedom begins the moment you decide that being debt-free matters more than temporary comfort, more than keeping up appearances, more than pretending everything is fine while drowning quietly. That decision is where everything starts to change. True financial freedom means choices, choosing where to live, how to work, and what to prioritize without money calling the shots. At its core, freedom is about flexibility, and money is one of the biggest factors shaping how much flexibility you have in life. When you're trapped by financial stress, your options shrink. You stay in a job you hate because you can't risk losing the paycheck. You live in a neighborhood that doesn't feel safe because the rent is lower. You put off pursuing passions because they don't pay immediately. In that sense, money becomes the invisible boss dictating your decisions. But when you gain control over your finances, you start to reclaim that power. You no longer make every choice based on desperation. You make choices based on intention. Imagine having the ability to say no to overtime at work because you don't need the extra cash to cover bills. Imagine choosing a career path that excites you, even if it doesn't pay the most, because you've built a financial cushion that gives you room to breathe. That's what freedom looks like. It's not a number in your bank account. It's the ability to design your life without constantly being cornered by money. It's having enough saved for emergencies so a broken car or a medical bill doesn't derail your entire month. It's having investments that quietly grow in the background, giving you confidence that your future won't depend solely on your ability to keep grinding every day. Choices are what separate those who are financially free from those who are financially stuck. If you're trapped in debt or living paycheck to paycheck, your choices are limited to what you can afford right now. You're constantly reacting, not planning. But if you've taken control of your money, you can start thinking long term. You can choose to buy a house in a community you love rather than the only place you can barely afford. You can choose to take a sabbatical to learn new skills or travel without destroying your savings. You can even choose to retire earlier. Not because you're forced out of work, but because you've prepared for that option. That kind of freedom is empowering because it gives you control over the narrative of your life. It's important to understand that financial freedom doesn't mean unlimited wealth. It's not about being able to buy anything at any time. It's about having enough security and flexibility that money no longer feels like a barrier to the life you want to live. Some people find freedom on a modest income by living intentionally and keeping their expenses low. Others might earn far more, but never achieve freedom because they're locked into an expensive lifestyle that keeps them hustling nonstop. The difference is not just in income, but in choices. At the end of the day, a true freedom is measured by whether you're living life on your terms or money's terms. If you're making choices because they align with your values, not because you're forced by financial stress. That's what financial freedom really looks like. It's not just numbers in a bank account. It's peace of mind, security, and the ability to say yes to opportunities and no to stress. Too often, financial freedom gets reduced to a dollar figure. People tell themselves, if I just hit this number, then I'll finally be free. But what they don't realize is that the number itself doesn't create freedom. It's the stability and security behind that number that changes how you live. Someone with a huge income but endless debt and zero savings isn't free at all. Meanwhile, someone with a modest bank balance but no debt, a strong emergency fund, and a clear plan for the future may feel more secure and less stressed than someone earning 3 times as much. Freedom is about what your money allows you to feel and do, not how big the balance looks on paper. Peace of mind is one of the biggest benefits of financial freedom. Think about the weight that comes with living paycheck to paycheck. Always wondering if your card will decline, always fearing an unexpected bill. That kind of stress eats at you. But once you build a financial cushion, that fear starts to disappear. Knowing you have money set aside for emergencies means you don't panic every time life throws a curveball. You stop living in constant survival mode, and that shift is worth more than any luxury purchase. Peace of mind is the luxury you can't put a price tag on, and it comes from building a strong financial foundation. Security is another pillar of true freedom. It's not about guaranteeing that nothing will ever go wrong. It's about knowing you're prepared when it does. Job loss, medical bills, car repairs. Life is full of surprises. Without security, those surprises can knock you down for years. With security, they're just bumps in the road. That's why financial freedom isn't flashy. It's quiet. It's the calm confidence that comes from being ready. And when you're secure, you stop living in fear of what could happen, and you start focusing on what you want to make happen. Then comes opportunity. Financial freedom opens doors that constant stress keeps closed. You can say yes to opportunities that excite you, whether that's starting a business, taking a class, investing in real estate, or traveling to places you've always wanted to see. At the same time, freedom also gives you the power to say no. No to toxic jobs, no to burnout, Notice situations that don't align with your goals. That balance, the ability to say yes and no without money being the deciding factor, is the essence of true freedom. When you strip it down, financial freedom isn't about stacking dollars just to admire them. It's about building a life where money supports you instead of stressing you. It's about stability, peace, and choice. It's about walking through life knowing you're in control, not because you have endless wealth, but because you've built a system where your money gives you confidence instead of fear